Let me start with where Anne-Marie just was. We have a meeting, as I understand it, this coming Sunday, I believe, on the 4th of December. What do you expect out of OPEC Plus?
Well, first, thank you for having me. It's good to be back. Look, we're not a member of OPEC, and I don't participate in their discussions, and I don't know what they're preparing to do. I think what we're focused on is making sure that there is energy prices on the global market reflect the supply and demand and reflect a price that can enable economic growth. We have been talking for the last several months about wanting to reduce inflation, reducing energy costs, and both on the international market, but most importantly here at home in the United States. And we've been able to do that. So oil prices are coming down from their highs, and that's a good thing. And we think that was the right trajectory. And finally, we're also seeing gasoline prices reflect this decline. And as you've seen, and we've been reporting, gasoline prices in the United States are significantly down over the last week or so. And I expect that they'll continue to decline over the next couple of weeks to give more Americans a break and to help with the overall inflation rates.
Well, as you suggest, we can't know what OPEC Plus is going to do, and the answer to this question depends upon that in part. But we have seen oil prices more subdued over the last month or so. And before, we had heard from the White House that at some point, when it gets low enough, actually you'll start buying again for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Are you close to that point? Where is that point?
So, yeah, what we've told the industry in the United States is that we would like to see them increase production in order to match the demand in the United States and to make sure we don't have these spikes of energy prices that disrupt economic activity. In order to for them to understand the playing field in the market, we've told them, look, we have released, the president took decisive action and released 180 million barrels out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve just in the last 7 months. We need to replenish those reserves. And when prices get to somewhere in the $70 range on a consistent basis, maybe a little bit around that area, but again on a consistent basis, then we will start to buy barrels back and to resupply the strategic reserve.
Will you announce that when it happens?
Yes, we normally do that, but we're not there yet, and prices do need to. Again, prices are down. They've been down before, and then they've risen right back. Let's see what the market looks like. We have a number of big decision points coming. One is the OPEC decision on Sunday, obviously. The other is as we are looking at the oil ban into Europe and the price cap to be announced. So there are some things that are going to happen over the next several weeks. So we're keeping a close eye. Want to make sure that we are ready to go in either direction to make sure that energy costs in the United States and around the world are lower.
Price cap to be announced is what you just said. Are you confident it's going to be announced? Are you going to get the deal done? Let's start with oil, on the oil price cap, because as I understand it, there's still some resistance.
I don't think that there's a resistance on establishing it. I think that we're still trying to figure out with the rapidly changing energy markets to understand where things are. Look, there's been a lot of reporting on Bloomberg and others about what are the revenues that Russia is getting. And there's this notion out there that somehow a very opaque price of Urals, which is the Russian crude, is at a certain price. Well, we don't really always know what that price is, and it's clearly come down. But just to remind folks that Urals only represents a certain portion of Russia's sales. They have other oil that comes out known as ESPO and other grades that are traded at different prices. So we're trying to understand and work with our colleagues and partners around the world and in Europe to make sure that when the EU and they are taking the lead on this to set the price, it reflects a price that restricts Putin's revenues, restricts his profits, but also does not but still incentivizes Russian crude from reaching the market and making sure that we have enough supply. That's a delicate balance, and the EU is working on it right now.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance without a doubt. But on, again, the subject of the price cap of oil, let's talk about that for a minute, because the reporting I've seen suggests that pretty much all the Russian oil is below a $65 to $70 a barrel rate. And so if you, in fact, get a $65 to $70 limit, does that affect his revenue at all, Mr. Putin's?
So first, I disagree with I would take some issue with the reporting. I think that Urals is trading lower. Other crudes, ESPO and other, are trading higher. It's a more complex picture. And clearly over the last, as you noted at the beginning of this interview, prices of crude, of Brent, has come down. But just a few weeks ago, Putin was getting, just at Urals, was getting significantly higher prices. So we can't match the price cap just to a daily change or a weekly change in prices. We have to make it responsive to the market, but also with a little bit of a broader perspective. So we have to look not just at the lowest possible barrel that Putin is selling, which may be at below $65 or $60, but we have to look at the totality of what price they are getting for their crudes. The good news is that he is getting significantly less money today than he was before, and his economy continues to degrade significantly. That's the good news, and that's the pressure that we are trying to make sure that Putin understands. He can't continue with bombing indiscriminately against innocent civilians, and now against making sure they don't have heat in the middle of dead of winter. So there got to be consequences here, but we also want to make sure that the pressure is felt on Putin and on Russia, and not on the United States and our allies around the world and in Europe.
And of course, that means natural gas as well as oil. What about the natural gas cap? Is that going to work? Because a lot of people think it's not going to work.
Well, that's an EU cap that they are working on, and what they announced, I think, last week. That's still, I think we have to see how they decide to implement that. I think overall, the most important thing about natural gas on price is that Europe, against all the predictions just a couple of months ago, they've been able to fill their storage levels to 95%, which means that they will be able to get through this winter comfortably, hopefully, and that the United States will continue to play the role that we have in allowing them and enabling them to do that. So the alliance against Russia is not only strong politically, but in the physical energy markets, we have worked very closely in order to be able to reach this result. And I'm glad to be able to see that our alliance holds strong, and Europe's going to be okay even at these elevated prices.
One more, if I could, Amos, and that's on the question of electric vehicle credits, because the Inflation Reduction Act included those. A lot of people think that was really far-reaching in terms of climate change. At the same time, you have President Macron from France flying in later today, I believe, to the White House, who's going to meet with President Biden. This is going to come up on the discussions. Is there a way through this? Because I know some of our friends in Europe are none too happy about some of the Buy America requirements.
Well, so first, let's make a couple of points. One, the IRA is the most significant climate legislation we've ever passed, and is a remarkable positive step on investing not just in electric vehicles, but across the board on getting us on to accelerate the energy transition in a meaningful, physical way. And that is what we needed to jumpstart the next phase of our combating climate. And we hope that other countries follow suit and take strong actions that incentivize investment into clean energy. We've established on the fact that some countries are reading in the legislation with a different lens. There's a task force that we established between the United States, led by senior officials from the White House, and Brussels from the Commission, to work on understanding the concerns in Europe and perhaps in other countries beyond Europe, and to see if we understand those, what can be done to address some of those concerns. But at the end of the day, this legislation is what's going to enable us to make sure we have not only an accelerated energy transition, but that we have an energy transition that has a supply chain that is diversified and not reliant on a single supplier. So this is about climate security, but it's also about our national security and national economic security. So I think this is a remarkable development that we are going to, I'm sure we will find a way to work with our European and other colleagues to ensure that it works for everyone.